Welcome to the deep dive. So you've shared some really interesting stuff with us, and today we're diving straight into um, a core idea in finance.
Okay.
It's probably a bit more involved than it first appears,
Yeah.
and it's all about suitability.
Right.
We're using that FinCrime intelligence article you send over as our launch pad to explore what suitability actually means.
Okay. Yeah. And put simply, suitability in the financial world is it's about making sure that any financial advice or recommendations you get,
As an investor.
exactly as an investor,
Sure.
that they're genuinely in line with your personal situation, the level of risk you're comfortable with, and ultimately what you're trying to achieve financially.
Right.
It's about that good fit
Right.
between your goals and what's being suggested.
Exactly.
Right.
A good fit. And one thing that jumps out from this FinCrime intelligence piece is that suitability isn't just like a nice suggestion.
No, not at all.
It's described as a foundational principle in how financial markets are regulated. Okay, let's unpack this a bit. Why is it so crucial from a regulatory angle?
Well, look, if we look at the bigger picture, financial services regulation, a lot of it is focused on protecting people who invest
Mm-hmm.
and keeping the markets fair and trustworthy. Suitability is really central to that protection piece.
Okay.
As the article points out, major markets like the UK, the EU, and the US have specific rules.
Right?
And bodies like the FCA and the SEC, they actively require financial firms to ensure this alignment we just talked about.
So making sure the product fits the person.
Precisely. They want to stop people from being sold products that are completely wrong for their circumstances.
And the article suggests the penalties for not getting this right can be pretty significant.
Oh, absolutely.
Things like regulatory crackdowns, big fines.
Yep, reputational damage too. And most importantly, harm to the people investing.
That really emphasizes how seriously the regulators take this.
Absolutely. I mean, imagine someone with very limited savings being persuaded to invest in really high-risk ventures.
Yeah, that could be disastrous.
The potential for them to suffer serious financial harm is huge. So these regulations are there to try and prevent those kinds of mismatches. Mismatches that could have devastating consequences for individuals.
So how do financial firms actually go about figuring out what's a suitable investment for someone? What are the key things they need to look at?
Well, the article details several specific things firms typically consider. This includes your investment goals.
Okay, like what you want to achieve.
Exactly. Are you aiming for regular income, maybe long-term growth, or just trying to keep your capital safe?
Right.
They'll also assess how much risk you're willing to take, your risk tolerance, and how long you plan to invest your money, your time horizon.
Okay, makes sense.
Critically, they need to understand your current financial situation, any investing you've done in the past, and your general understanding of different financial products.
So your knowledge matters too.
Definitely. Your knowledge and experience. And lastly, they also look at how you're classified from a regulatory standpoint. Are you an everyday retail client or maybe a more experienced professional investor?
That makes sense. They need to build a sort of a full picture
Exactly.
to avoid, as the article puts it, overexposure to risk or putting you into something that simply won't help you reach your financial aims.
Precisely. It's all about avoiding those inappropriate recommendations that could ultimately lead to financial loss. What in that list kind of stands out to you?
I think it's interesting how much importance is given to understanding what the client already knows
Yeah.
and what experience they have. It's not just about their current bank balance, but also how comfortable, knowledgeable they are with investing. That seems really important for making, informed suggestions.
Yes.
And the article also touches on a distinction that I think is, well, crucial to get clear on.
Okay.
The difference between suitability and appropriateness. They sound like they mean the same thing, but they're not quite identical, are they?
Ugh, that's a really important distinction to make, yeah. As the article explains, suitability kicks in when a firm is actually giving you investment advice
Right.
or managing your investments for you, what's known as discretionary portfolio management.
Okay.
In those cases, the firm needs that detailed understanding of your whole financial picture that we were just discussing.
Got it. So what about appropriateness then?
Appropriateness, on the other hand, is more relevant for execution-only services.
Execution only.
Ah,
So that's when you, the investor, decide on the specific investments yourself
exactly.
without getting direct advice from the firm. Like if I decide I want to buy shares in company X and just use an online platform to do it.
Exactly right. In that situation, the firm's responsibility is more focused on whether you have a basic understanding of the risks involved in the specific product you're choosing.
Ah,
They're not advising you to buy it, but they need to make sure you're aware of what you're potentially getting into. Understanding this difference is really vital for firms to, comply with the regulations.
okay. Now, here's where it gets really interesting, I think.
Go on.
The article makes a connection that you might not immediately think of.
Each is.
The link between making sure investments are suitable and preventing financial crime. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, this is a fascinating angle. It raises an important question. How does ensuring someone is in the right kind of investment actually help in the fight against financial crime?
Right. How does that work?
Well, the article points out that investments that don't fit a client's profile can actually act as a warning sign.
A red flag.
Exactly. Potentially signaling potential misconduct within a financial institution. Think about it: if someone who should be in very low-risk investments suddenly has a lot of their money in very high-risk, complicated products.
Hmm.
That could be a sign of misselling, maybe, or even internal fraud.
That makes sense. If a client who, based on their situation, should be in really safe investments is suddenly heavily invested in really risky, complex things, yeah, that might be something to investigate further.
Precisely. Furthermore, the article raises a concerning possibility that high-risk financial products could actually be used for illegal activities.
Like money laundering.
Like money laundering, exactly.
Hmm.
If someone can somehow get through a suitability check, maybe with a falsified profile,
Right.
it could create a way to move illicit money around. So, strong suitability checks and frameworks act as another layer of defense.
How so?
They help spot those unusual patterns and inconsistencies that might suggest something illegal is happening. Interestingly, some of the patterns we see in missold high-risk products to vulnerable individuals, they actually mirror the early warning signs of certain types of financial fraud.
Really?
Yeah, suggesting that robust suitability checks act as a crucial first line of defense against broader illicit activities, too.
It's fascinating how these two areas that seem quite separate, protecting investors and stopping financial crime, are actually so closely linked.
Really are.
Now, the article also talks about the increasing role of technology in all of this.
Yeah.
How are digital platforms changing how suitability assessments are carried out?
Well, what's fascinating here is the growing use of digital platforms to collect all that essential client information.
Right, the data gathering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then using computer programs, algorithms to carry out the suitability assessment.
And the benefit.
The article highlights the potential benefits, like making the assessments more consistent, perhaps, giving a real-time view of someone's risk tolerance, and reducing the chances of human error, manual errors.
That sounds like it could make the process much more efficient.
Yeah.
But the article also mentions a word of caution, doesn't it?
It does.
About relying too much on these automated systems.
Yes, and this is a really important point. The article warns against, over-reliance on these systems without proper oversight from people.
Human oversight.
Exactly. The worry is that if these programs, these algorithms are poorly designed or maybe not flexible enough to deal with different types of clients,
Yeah.
they could still lead to unsuitable recommendations. There's a real need to find the right balance
Between the tech and the human.
between the efficiency that technology offers and the critical thinking and, the more nuanced judgment that a human advisor can bring.
So it's not about replacing humans entirely.
Not at all. It's about using technology as a powerful tool to make their work more effective, more robust.
Okay. Finally, the article outlines some best practices for financial firms to ensure their suitability processes are really working well. What are some of the key things they should be doing?
The article emphasizes several vital steps. First off, regularly reviewing both the client's information and their investment strategies. That's crucial.
Because things change.
Exactly. People's lives and circumstances change, so their investment plans need to adapt. Secondly, keeping clear and transparent records.
Documentation.
Yes, of the advice that was given and the reasons behind the recommendations. That's essential for accountability.
Makes sense.
Training financial advisors on the regulatory rules and ethical standards is also absolutely key.
Right.
Firms should also be using monitoring tools to help identify any potential patterns of mis-selling or harm to clients.
Being proactive.
Yes. And lastly, making suitability checks a core part of the initial process, the onboarding.
When you first become a client.
Right. and then continuing those checks throughout their relationship with the firm, it ensures it's an ongoing process, not just a one-time thing.
Sounds like it needs to be a really thorough and ongoing effort, more of a proactive approach than just reacting when problems pop up.
Definitely.
So for you listening, understanding suitability is really about knowing your rights and what to expect when you're working with a financial advisor, ensuring they're truly acting in your best interest.
Exactly. Robust suitability procedures aren't just about ticking a box for the regulators. They are fundamental for protecting the people who are investing and ultimately for building trust, which is so important for the long-term success and reputation of financial institutions. And as we've discussed, it also plays that role in the wider effort to combat financial crime.
So to recap then, this deep dive into suitability, sparked by the FinCrime Intelligence article, has shown us that it's much more than just a financial regulation.
Much more.
It's a core principle for safeguarding investors, making sure financial advice actually fits their individual situations and goals.
Yep.
We've also explored this surprising connection to preventing financial crime, where unsuitable investments can act as potential warning signs.
Those red flags.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And while technology offers valuable ways to assess suitability, the human element judgment, understanding, remains vital.
Absolutely crucial. And thinking about, the increasing sophistication of financial crime that we often see,
It's always evolving.
it is. And the article you mentioned even has headlines like how phone scams are becoming more sophisticated and Facebook fraud. It makes you consider, given these evolving threats, how might a much deeper and more sort of nuanced understanding of an individual's suitability profile, how might that become an even more significant tool in the future
A tool for what?
for identifying and ultimately preventing illicit financial activities?
That's a really thought-provoking point to end on. Thank you for exploring this important area with me today.
It's my pleasure.
And to you, the listener, we encourage you to really consider those wider implications.